Welcome everyone, it's Dylan from Class 1A bringing you another My Hero Academia manga breakdown. This week we have chapter 341, the story how we all became heroes, -1. Wow, that's kind of a mouthful. We kick off the chapter in a dark and rundown home that's been vandalized. Demon child, die, vampire. It's of course our very own Yandere, Toga's childhood home. And I love that the way that they're kicking off here. I mean, this looks like it's cut straight from a horror manga. It is absolutely horrifying just to have all these dark scenes with all like the vandalized walls everywhere and like the rundown house. Like bringing it all together just like works so well here with Toga's aesthetic. And like I think darkness is such a hard feeling to convey in manga that Horikoshi just does it so well here. Toga wanders through the house thinking about her past. She relives some of the insults and attacks she's faced growing up. She has a flashback, dreaming about the bird she was always obsessed with, picking at her guts, ripping her apart while she lays there. God damn, this girl's absolutely messed up. And I think that's why I love Toga so much, is that she brings that like gross, disgusting horror manga vibe to her whenever she's in like any scene here. Like this is just like picking apart the guts thing is just absolutely disgusting. It reminds me a lot of like Prometheus, like his like fate to have his guts picked apart by birds every single day, and it's like everything starts growing back and the birds come back and they keep picking apart every day for eternity. And that's what it makes me think about here, because Toga has this dream like every single night, except it's like a weird twist on it where instead of it being like a punishment, she's like reveling in the pain. It's absolutely gross. And from the shadows, we see our favorite zombie boy, Dabi. He pokes and teases Toga, testing her feelings about this world. Is she still sentimental and emotional, or is she ready to burn it all down with him, as he sets her house ablaze? Jesus, Dabi is like Joker-fied here at this point. Like, he is completely, totally overrun with nihilism. This is where we're just like blowing stuff up. He's just like casting things aside like this. Like, nothing can touch him at this point. And like, I always saw Dabi as being driven by like hate for Endeavor for what he's done to him and how he's turned out in this world because of it. But here it seems like that was more of the catalyst that turned him into what he is today. So instead of being like driven by hate and spite for Endeavor, that hate and spite turned him into this like nihilistic guy who just wants to burn everything down, talking about like laughing at it all, reveling in Endeavor's pain, and just like smiling, which is such a weird and twisted like way that the heroes think of like, all I want to do is smile with you, is like Deku's whole thing. And Dabi's saying it here, except like in like the evil context of it. Love it. Dabi is such a horrifying villain right now. He is out for blood. Speaking of blood, we then see the ace up Toga's literal sleeve, Twice's blood. Their secret weapon to carry on his sad man's parade. Okay, wow, there's just so much right here to kind of unpack. Okay, first let's talk about Toga's quirk and her quirk evolution. So originally how her quirk worked is that she had the blood from anybody, she could drink it, and she could look like them. Easy stuff, right? But with her quirk evolution that happened during the MVA arc, she was able to turn into Uraraka and actually use her quirk. So, like, the reason why she can do that from this point on is that she has to be deeply connected with the person. And if she drinks the blood and is deeply connected with them, she can then mimic their quirk. Exactly. Which makes a lot of sense, because otherwise we just have like a ton of like machias running around, right? Just rampaging everywhere. So totally makes sense that she's able to just connect on that level and turn into them here. So it doesn't get, too broken. But with Twice's blood, she can then copy his quirk and then start copying more of herself there. I don't know how far this really goes and how much it spreads out, but like this is potentially horrifying. Like this combination of quirks might be stacked in a way of like we have a real bomb on our hands. And then we move over to our favorite villain perspective, Spinner, who finds a mangled Shigaraki who's putting himself back together amidst a bunch of just guts and organs in a cave. All this after Stars and Stripes forced all his quirks to turn in on himself, essentially showing a representation of what the quirk Doomsday Singularity theory would do. Again, more just horror manga stuff here. Like, Shigaraki's like testing the waters for like his next genre or something here, but like he's absolutely nailing it. And this is just truly horrifying. Like the huge pile of like guts and organs just like sitting in this cave. Oh, it just makes my skin crawl. This whole chapter's making my skin crawl. But I think this is really cool because it's tying everything back to the quirk Doomsday Singularity theory of like, this is what humanity should expect. This is like what would happen if your quirk got too deep and too complex and turned in on itself and started fighting your own body. And then Skeptic starts spouting race statistics at Spinner, which, okay, I get they're making a point about heteromorphs, but a little sus here. But the meat of what he's saying is that Spinner gives hope to the heteromorphs. He is going to lead them, and he is their symbol of hope. We then end the chapter with Skeptic giving him a remote and AFO telling him that anybody can be someone else's hero. A twisted version of a saying that we all know and love. Okay, stuff is getting really real right now. And I really love that it's Spinner here, because like the way that he got into League of Villains was he saw Stain and wanted to mimic him because he gave him so much hope. But then once he was in the League of Villains, he saw Shigaraki and what he embodied, and he then wanted to follow that kind of person. And I love that it's Spinner because now it's his turn to be the hope for someone else. That people are now looking towards him as their symbol of what they can aspire to be. Now, I'm wondering what this remote goes to. I'm guessing it's going to be a remote to blow something up. So I don't think it's UA. It wouldn't make sense if it was UA. But what I think it's going to be is Sukaechi High. Am I saying that right? I think it's Sukaechi. But essentially what I'm thinking here is that Sukaechi High is connected to UA. So if they go after that, it's probably going to be less defended than UA. They blow it up. They create some sort of entrance in there. They take it over and they go to the underground tunnels that's connecting the two schools together. That way they have like a secret way into UA. And it's a reason for them to like kind of take a little bit of time to get to UA. Like it's going to be like a break in there. They're going to get to the tunnels. They're going to make their way over to UA. Probably going to have some of the civilians eject there, and they can have the big final battle at UA. Now, this just makes sense to me because it would make sense at UA with this concentration of heroes, and frankly, they're the main characters, so like it's going to be more well defended there. So they have to get in through a weak spot, which the weak spot here is the other school. And again, like these past 4 chapters have done so much heavy lifting for what's going to happen in this next arc. I mean, like all the last 3 parts in this -1 part, and maybe some of the other ones after it, are all going to be brought together to do the heavy lifting because the story is going to be going fast. Stuff is going to be happening, people are going to be mentioning, events are going to be popping off, and we have to have this as a baseline to know what's going on, why is it going on, and where we're going to go next. And so I wanted to also talk a little bit more about Toga's quirk and like who she could actually use the quirk of, like who can she actually copy at this point, because it's someone that she has to hold dear. So I'm thinking Deku, Uraraka, Twice, and then who else? Like I would definitely let me know in the comments below, like who am I missing here? I feel like Toga isn't close to too many people, so her evolved form of this quirk is not incredibly strong because she has to make that connection, but I guess because she can do it in like that weird kind of like stalker-ish way, because like she's never really met Uraraka and talked to her or Deku, but she was able to form like that same emotional connection that she needed to for her quirk to work. So like who else could she be obsessing over? Stain? Okay, so what do we expect next? I am probably expecting another Minus chapter. I mean, we got a lot of setup from the hero side and what's going on there, and we had this chapter, which is frankly pretty big, and I think it touches upon mostly all the villains on what's going on, but I think we might have another Minus chapter just to give us another baseline to set up for what's really going to come here in this next arc. I think there's an opportunity for them to at least get to the point where they're just about to do something, and then boom, switch perspectives back on us to the heroes and let the events play out. I mean, at this point, we have like 18 different plot threads that we can start on to start going to where we need to go. We can go like anywhere at this point. I mean, we still have to go back to Aoyama, who is then going to talk to All For One or figure out where All For One is, which maybe that is where they collide, of where we have another Minus chapter, and the Minus chapter ends with Aoyama and All For One kind of clicking there. But I guess we'll find out in next chapter. Thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you all next class.